I need you to stay with me for the next 30 seconds, because what I am about to tell you is something I kept silent about for too long. And silence, I have learned, is exactly what people like my parents count on. So, here it is. I was 29 years old, sitting in a mortgage broker's office in my best blazer, 2 years of carefully saved documents in a neat folder on my lap, $31,000 in savings, zero debt, a plan I had been building quietly and patiently for years. I had worked for this moment since I was 22. The broker's name was Sandra M. Holloway. I know that because I kept staring at her nameplate, because it gave me somewhere to look that wasn't her face. Her face had changed. She had been warm the entire appointment, smiling, offered me water, 40 minutes of paperwork going exactly right. And then she pulled up my credit report and the smile stopped. Not disappeared, stopped. Like a clock someone had put their hand on mid-tick. Her eyes moved across the screen. Her finger hovered over the mouse without clicking a single thing. She turned the screen toward me. No explanation, no warning, no words at all, just the screen. I leaned forward. $47,312 in debt, in my name. Across 9 accounts I had never opened, never signed, never touched, never seen before in my entire life. I felt the room tilt, and then, this is the part that cracked something inside me that has never fully closed. I looked at the addresses listed on every single one of those accounts. 9 accounts, 9 times. The same address. 44117 Brentwood Drive, Columbus, Ohio. I grew up in that house. My parents still live in that house. And for 6 years of Sunday dinners, birthday cards, I love yous, and phone calls just to say they heard a song that reminded them of me. They had been sitting inside that house using my name, my social security number, and my entire financial future as their own private credit line. Without telling me, without asking me, without a single word. This is that story. My name is Raina. I am 29 years old, and for 6 years my parents used my identity like a personal credit line, quietly, methodically, and with enough love in between that I never once suspected a thing. That is the part that still keeps me up at night. Not the money, not the legal process, the love, because it was real. At least it felt real. Sunday dinners every few weeks without fail. My mother, Carol, calling just to say she heard a song that reminded her of me. My father, Dennis, texting me game scores because he knew I was too busy at work to watch. A birthday card every year, handwritten, always with the same line at the bottom. You are the best thing we ever did. I believed it, completely, absolutely, without any reason not to. I grew up in a middle-class household in Columbus, Ohio. My parents were not rich, but we were comfortable. My father worked in logistics management for 22 years. My mother ran a small alteration shop from home after I started high school. They paid their bills. They owned their house. Nothing about my childhood raised alarms. I have one sibling, my brother Marcus, who is 3 years older than me. He moved to Cincinnati for work when I was still in college. We stayed close the way adult siblings do. Texts, occasional calls, holidays, normal, or so I believed. I was the first in my family to get a college degree. Accounting. I graduated at 22, landed a junior analyst position at a mid-sized firm, and started building my life the way they always told me to. Carefully, patiently, one step at a time. I rented a modest apartment 40 minutes from my parents' house. I drove a used Honda. I packed my lunch 4 days a week and put the difference into savings. I visited my parents maybe twice a month, Sunday dinners when schedules allowed, holidays without exception. By 27, I had $31,000 saved, a 6-month emergency fund, 0 credit card debt, a credit score I was genuinely proud of, 748 the last time I checked. And that is the thing. The last time I checked was November, 2 years before Sandra's office. I was 27, everything looked fine, and I stopped looking. Not out of carelessness, out of confidence. I knew exactly what I was spending. I knew exactly what I had. I had no reason to believe anything in my financial life could change without my knowledge. That confidence was the door they walked through. The numbers Sandra showed me, my score had collapsed to 521. 2 years of silence. 2 years of Sunday texts and birthday cards and a family that felt completely intact. 2 years of my name being quietly attached to debt I was never told about. Let me tell you how that belief gets built and then used against you. Sandra printed the full credit report and slid it across the desk without comment. I think she could tell I needed to read it alone. 9 accounts, all opened between the ages of 23 and 28. All in my name, all with my social security number, all with my date of birth. I want to read you every single one, because the specificity of it matters. This was not one moment of desperation. This was a system. The oldest account, a Synchrony Bank retail card, was opened 3 months after I graduated college. Balance, $2,100. Address on the account, 44117 Brentwood Drive, Columbus, Ohio. My parents' address, a Capital One Quicksilver card. Balance, $6,800. Address, 44117 Brentwood Drive. A personal installment loan through Lending Club, $9,200 remaining. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. A Home Depot store card. Balance, $3,100. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. A Rooms to Go furniture card. Balance, $4,600. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. A Care Credit medical card. Balance, $3,100. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. A Marcus by Goldman Sachs personal loan. Balance, $8,900. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. A Best Buy store card. Balance, $2,212. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. And the last one, a Discover card opened just 14 months ago. Balance, $7,300. Address, 4417 Brentwood Drive. 9 accounts, $47,312 in total. 6 years of my name, my social security number, and my parents' address being used as a revolving financial resource. 3 of the accounts showed missed payments, collections notices on 2. I sat in that office for 11 minutes reading through the document before I said a single word to Sandra. I counted afterward because it felt important to know. 11 minutes of absolute silence while my entire understanding of the last 6 years reorganized itself. Sandra handed me a glass of water I did not remember asking for. She said very quietly that she had seen situations like this before, that there were steps, that it was not the end of the road. I thanked her. I folded the report into my folder on top of my savings documents. I asked to reschedule the appointment. I drove home. I sat in my car in my parking garage for 22 minutes. Then I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started pulling every financial document I had from the past 6 years. Here is what I found. Every single account had been opened during Windows when my parents had access to my personal information. My social security number appeared on tax forms I had filed jointly with them until I was 24. My date of birth and mother's maiden name, standard security questions, were information they had always known. My childhood address matched their current address, which meant every application passed early verification checks without triggering a single flag. They had not hacked me. They had not hired anyone. They had simply used what they already had, the information that being my parents gave them, and they had used it slowly enough over 6 years that no single account opening triggered a fraud alert. Slow theft does not look like theft. It looks like nothing. That is the design. I want to stop here and ask you something. If you found out someone had done this to you, spent 6 years building debt in your name while texting you game scores and mailing you birthday cards, what would your first call be? Because my first call was not the police. It was my mother. I called her on a Wednesday at 7:14 in the evening. I know the exact time because I screenshotted my call log the next morning as documentation. She picked up on the second ring, the way she always does, like she had been waiting. "Raina, hi sweetheart, I was just thinking about you." I asked her to put the phone on speaker and get Dad. 30 seconds of shuffling. The television in the background muting. 2 sets of breathing. "We are both here." I told them what I found. Calmly. Account by account. Balance by balance. I read each address back to them from the printout. Silence. Not the silence of people who are shocked. The silence of people who are deciding. Then my mother said, "Raina, honey, those were emergencies." That word. Emergencies. Plural. 9 accounts worth of emergencies spanning 6 years. Emergencies she had never once mentioned during any of our Sunday dinners. The birthday cards, the game score texts, or the phone calls about songs that reminded her of me. "We were going to pay them back," she said. Her voice was completely steady. "We always intended to pay them back. We just needed time." My father said nothing. I noticed that immediately. He let her do the talking. I asked one question. "Did you open these accounts using my name without my permission?" Another pause. "We are your parents," she said. "What is ours is yours, and what is yours is—" I ended the call. I sat on my kitchen floor for a while after that, not crying, just processing the specific architecture of what she had just said. What is yours is ours. The entitlement compressed into 5 words, delivered in the same calm voice that used to read me bedtime stories. Then I thought about the care credit account, the medical card, $3,100 outstanding. 14 months ago, my mother video called me on a Sunday afternoon. She looked different. Her face was slightly puffy around the cheeks and lips. I asked if she was feeling okay. She said she had a minor dental procedure, a gum treatment her dentist had been recommending for years. She said it was routine. She said insurance handled most of it. She was wearing the pink cardigan I had given her for her birthday, and she was smiling, and I told her I was glad she was finally taking care of herself. I meant it. I have looked at that memory 100 times since then, turning it over like a coin. The puffiness was not dental work. I know that now. Care Credit is not a dental insurance card. It is a cosmetic financing card used almost exclusively for elective procedures, lip fillers, facial injections, things insurance never covers because they are not medical necessities, things that cost exactly $3,100 and leave your face swollen for 3 to 5 days and require you to explain to your daughter on a Sunday video call that you just had a gum treatment. She sat in that pink cardigan I bought her and looked directly into the camera and lied to my face. And the entire thing, every dollar of it, was charged to a credit card opened in my name, at her address, billed to my Social Security number without a single conversation, a single question, or a single word. I sat on that kitchen floor for a very long time after I made that connection. Long enough for the room to go dark around me and for me to not notice until I reached for my phone and the screen lit up the whole apartment. I texted Marcus that same night. I kept it short. "Did you know about the accounts they opened in my name?" He responded 4 hours later. Not with a no. He responded with, "How did you find out?" I stared at that message for a long time. How did you find out? Not what are you talking about? Not that is insane, are you okay? Not, I had no idea, Raina, how did you find out? He knew. The only question was, for how long? I called him. He picked up immediately, and before I could speak, he said, "I found out about 2 years ago. When Mom asked me if she could use my Social Security number too, he said he refused. He said he never told me because Dad sat him down and explained that it would destroy the family, that they were planning to pay everything back before I ever noticed, and that telling me would cause more harm than good. He said he was scared. I believed him about the fear. I understood it. Our father had a specific way of framing silence as protection, and Marcus had been absorbing that framing his entire life. But here is what I could not let go of. For 2 years, my brother sat with the knowledge that my identity was being used without my consent, and every time he talked to me, every holiday, every text, every "how is work going" phone call, he chose not to say a word. He did not steal from me. He did not benefit from it. He was afraid, and he made a choice that fear makes easier to explain than it is to forgive. I want to ask you something directly. My brother knew for 2 years. He never spent a single dollar of what they took. He was in a household that had conditioned him since childhood to absorb problems quietly. but he still made a choice that cost me compounding debt and a collapsed mortgage application. Is that unforgivable? Or is that a 32-year-old man doing the only thing he knew how to do inside a family that taught him silence was survival? My answer changes depending on the day. I am not sure that ever stops. What did not change was what I did next. I called my mentor at work. Her name is Patricia. She had hired me 4 years earlier when I was still junior staff. She had noticed I had been quieter than usual for 2 weeks running, and she pulled me aside after a meeting and asked directly what was going on. I told her everything. She did not flinch. She did not offer a platitude. She opened her desk drawer, pulled out a notepad, and said, "Okay, here is what you do first." Patricia had navigated a business identity theft situation 7 years earlier. She knew the process cold, and she walked me through it the way she ran every project: systematic, documented, sequential. Step 1. Federal Trade Commission Report. File at identitytheft.gov. This creates your official recovery plan and generates legal documentation that the fraud occurred. Step 2. All 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, place a fraud alert on each, then request your complete credit file from all 3 to confirm every account. Step 3. Each individual creditor. Contact them one by one. Dispute every account as fraudulent and unauthorized. Request their specific identity theft affidavit forms. Step 4. Police report. Local jurisdiction. This becomes the supporting documentation for every creditor dispute. Step 5. Freeze your credit at all 3 bureaus immediately, that day. I took 3 pages of notes. I thanked her. I went back to my desk, closed my office door, and started making calls. Here is something no one tells you about recovering from identity theft committed by your own family. The legal process is actually the easy part. Every operator, every investigator, every creditor representative I spoke to had a protocol. There was a path. It existed. I just had to walk it. The hard part is walking it while the people who built the debt are still texting you photos of your childhood dog. My mother sent me 3 texts during the week I was filing paperwork. The first one was a recipe. Chicken piccata, my favorite. The second was a photo of our old golden retriever taken sometime last spring. The third said simply, "We should talk soon. We miss you." I saved all 3 as documentation of continued contact following discovery of the fraud. Day 1. FTC report filed online. It took 40 minutes. The FTC generated a personalized recovery plan with step-by-step instructions and assigned me a case number I would use in every subsequent call. Day 2. Called all 3 credit bureaus, placed fraud alerts on each. I requested extended fraud alerts, which last 7 years and legally require creditors to verify your identity before opening any new account in your name. Days 3 through 7. Contacted all 9 creditors individually. Each call averaged 45 minutes. I submitted identity theft affidavits, provided my FTC case number, and formally disputed every account as fraudulent and unauthorized. Somewhere around the 4th call, I think it was the lending club loan, day 5, maybe 2 in the afternoon, Patricia knocked on my closed office door and opened it without waiting. She did not say anything. She set a coffee on the corner of my desk, glanced at the notepad filled with case numbers and account names and representative names, gave one single nod, and left. She pulled the door shut behind her. I stared at that coffee for a second. It sounds like nothing, but I had been running on 4 hours of sleep and had not eaten since morning, and the simple act of someone seeing that without being asked and doing something about it without making it a conversation cracked something open in my chest that I had been keeping sealed shut all week. I took one sip. I went back to the call. Sometimes the smallest gesture from the right person is the only thing standing between you and the version of yourself that gives up. 6 of the 9 creditors flagged the accounts for investigation immediately. 2 asked for additional documentation. My FTC report combined with the police report I had not filed yet. One creditor, the rooms-to-go furniture account gave me the most resistance. The representative told me the account had been opened with a matching address, and I would need to provide proof of non-residence at the time of opening. I had lease records going back 5 years. I submitted them that same afternoon. Day 8. I went to my local police precinct and filed a report for identity theft and fraud. The officer who took my statement, Detective Chen, asked me directly if I knew who had committed the fraud. I said yes. She asked if I wanted to name them in the report. I said yes. She asked if I understood that doing so could lead to criminal charges being filed against them. I said yes. 3 times, yes, yes, yes. Detective Chen documented everything without comment, printed me a copy of the report, and told me to expect a follow-up call within 2 weeks. That night I sat at my kitchen table and thought about that moment. 3 yeses delivered to a detective in a fluorescent-lit precinct while my parents were probably watching television at 4417 Brentwood Drive, not yet knowing I had walked through that door. There is a version of me who would have said no, who would have found a way to protect them even inside a police station, who would have believed that family is family and we handle things privately and quietly and without getting anyone in trouble. That version of me was the version they relied on for 6 years. And here's the question that has not left me since that night. Detective Chen told me that pursuing criminal charges against your own parents carries a high likelihood of permanently ending every family relationship you have, not just with them, with everyone. The relatives who take their side, the cousins who never quite understood what happened, the people who knew you as a family unit and cannot reconcile the fracture. Filing that report set something in motion that could not be undone. I had 48 hours before the investigation moved forward. What would you have chosen? On day 12, my father called me. He had never been the one to call during those 2 weeks. It had always been my mother. Recipes, dog photos, miss you. He called at 6:45 in the morning on a Tuesday, which told me he had been awake before sunrise thinking about what to say. Raina. His voice was different, quieter than I had ever heard it. I need you to understand something. I let him talk. He said they had always meant to pay it back. He said the company had cut his hours 3 years ago, and they had fallen behind faster than he expected. He said they were proud of me, how far I had come, how responsible I was, and that they knew I could handle the credit impact better than they could. Then he said the thing I have turned over in my mind every day since. We did it because we believed in you. There it is. My mother said it too, 2 weeks later, when she finally stopped sending recipes and called to ask me directly to drop the creditor disputes. She said they had done it because they knew I would be okay, because I was capable, because they believed in me more than they believed in themselves. I want you to sit with that framing for a moment. Is that love? Is there a version of that logic that comes from a genuinely human place? A parent who looks at their competent, responsible child and makes a catastrophic decision because they actually believe the child will survive it? Or is that the most dangerous kind of manipulation? The kind that dresses itself in faith? The kind that says, I believe in you, as a way of saying I am using you, so convincingly that even the person being used pauses and questions their own anger? I have no clean answer. Some days I think it was real faith twisted into selfishness by years of financial desperation. Other days I think it was a story they told themselves so they could sleep. Both might be true. That is actually the hardest version to live with. What I said to my father was this: I have filed a police report. I have submitted FTC documentation. I have disputed all 9 accounts. If you contact me again before this process is complete, I will provide that contact as additional evidence of harassment. He hung up. My mother called 4 minutes later. I sent it to voicemail. I labeled it and saved it. Marcus called me 2 days after my father. He said Mom and Dad had asked him to call. They wanted him to tell me to drop everything, that it would destroy the family, that it was not worth the permanent damage, that there had to be another way. He said he was not going to say any of that. He said, I am sorry. I should have told you 2 years ago. I should have told you the day I found out. I do not have a better reason than I was scared, and I know that is not enough." I did not respond for a long time. Then I asked him, "Do you have documentation of the conversation when they asked to use your social security number?" He did. He had screenshotted the text exchange the day it happened and kept it in a private folder for 2 years. He had been holding it like insurance, or maybe like guilt. I am not sure he knew which. He sent it to me that afternoon. I forwarded it to Detective Chen. I want to say something about Marcus, because I think what he represents is something a lot of people watching this will recognize. He did not steal from me. He did not benefit from what was taken. He was placed in an impossible position by parents who had spent decades teaching both of us that keeping the peace was the same thing as keeping the family. He made a choice that cost me 2 years of compounding debt. I love him. That is still true, but trust is a completely different thing from love, and it rebuilds on a slower timeline than it breaks. My parents, what I feel about them is harder to name. It is not hate. It is not grief exactly. It is more like the sensation of finally seeing a photograph clearly after years of thinking it was slightly blurred, and realizing the image was never what you thought it was. They raised me. They were present. Some of what I felt from them over 29 years was real love. I have to believe that, because the alternative means revising my entire childhood into something I am not yet prepared to face. But some of it was also maintenance, keeping me warm enough, close enough, trusting enough that I would never think to check a credit report. Never think to question whether the people who called me the best thing they ever did might simultaneously be opening accounts in my name at the kitchen table I grew up eating at. Both things can be true at the same time. That is the hardest sentence I have ever had to learn to mean. 7 of the 9 accounts have been fully removed from my credit report. The remaining 2 are in active dispute. The creditors are cooperating. Detective Chen called me last month to say the investigation is progressing and she expects formal charges to be filed within 60 days. My credit score is currently 681, not back to 748 yet, but climbing 4 to 6 points every month, steady and quiet, like something healing on its own schedule. I found a different apartment, smaller than the one I had before, but every single thing inside it is mine. Chosen without obligation, arranged without anyone's approval, paid for without guilt. Last weekend, I painted one wall a deep green I saw in a magazine 2 years ago and never did anything about. I opened the windows while I painted. Nobody commented on the color choice. That sounds small. It is not. I am not ready to buy yet. That is okay. The goal did not disappear. It just moved down the road a little. And for the first time in a long time, the road ahead of me belongs entirely to me. I talk to Marcus occasionally. Carefully. We are not where we were, but we are somewhere, which is more than I expected 6 months ago. He started therapy in the fall. He told me that in a text, and I told him I was glad. We left it there for now. I do not talk to my parents. I have received 11 letters from my mother since the investigation began. I have read 4 of them. They follow a consistent structure. Apology first, then explanation, then a soft, careful request to consider reconciliation before the case moves any further forward. The apology is always first. I have noticed that. I have thought about what it means that the apology leads and the request follows, whether that ordering is sincerity or strategy. I have not decided. My grandmother, my father's mother, Grandma Iris, is 74 years old, and she called me in month 2 after finding out through another family member what had happened. I was prepared for her to ask me to reconsider, to tell me family is family and forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. She did not say any of that. She said, "Your father knew better. There is no version of what happened where he did not know exactly what he was doing." She sends me a card every month now. Just a card, a few sentences, no agenda. A photo of her garden in September. A clipping of a poem she liked in October. Just presence, showing up without asking for anything back. I did not expect that. I did not expect that when I stopped letting the wrong people take from me, other people would move closer, but some did. That part surprised me more than anything else that happened this year. I want to end with something I have been sitting with since the beginning. There is a version of this story where I protect my parents, where I find those 9 accounts, confront them privately, agree to some repayment arrangement, and never file a single report. Where I absorb the damage quietly because that is what you do for family. You absorb, you stay, you protect the version of things that everyone on the outside sees. That version of me is real. I knew her well. She drove to Sunday dinners and answered the phone on the second ring and genuinely believed she was loved without conditions. She is also the version of me that would have walked into a mortgage broker's office at 35 or 40 or 45 and found a larger number on a turned screen, and then again at 50. The question I keep returning to, the one I am leaving with you today, is this. When the people who were supposed to protect you ask for one more chance, and you have finally found solid ground without them, is maintaining that distance the right choice? Or is there something worth attempting to rebuild slowly, on your own terms, in your own time, with entirely new boundaries? I do not know yet. I may not know for years. I think the honest answer is that it depends on things I cannot see from where I am standing right now. What I do know is that the floor came back. Not all at once, but steadily, and on my schedule, and with nobody else's hands in my pockets. Sandra Holloway's office was not the end of the road. It was just the first moment I saw the road clearly. And clear, even when it is hard, even when it is lonely, even when it costs you everything you thought was permanent, turns out to be a much better place to build from than comfortable ever was. Before you go, I want to ask you for 3 things. Not because of an algorithm, not because a number on a screen matters to me more than this story does, but because of something specific. The first thing is this. If any part of what I shared today made you feel less alone, if you recognize something in this story that you have been carrying quietly by yourself, hit the like button, not for me, as a signal to yourself that what happened to you was real, that your anger was valid, and that you are not crazy for feeling it. The second thing, share this video. I am serious about this one. Because somewhere in your contacts right now, there is a person who has not checked their credit report in 2 years. There is someone who trusts their family completely and has never had a reason not to. There is someone who is exactly where I was before Sandra turned that screen around. You sharing this video costs you 10 seconds. For them, it could be the thing that changes everything before the damage compounds for another 6 years. Send it, please. And the third thing, subscribe. Because this channel exists for one reason only, to tell the stories that people are too afraid, too ashamed, or too exhausted to tell themselves. Real stories, complicated ones, the kind that do not have clean endings but have honest ones. I put one out every single week. If this one mattered to you, the next one will too. And one last thing before the screen goes dark. Check your credit report tonight, not tomorrow, not when you have more time. Tonight. It is completely free. It takes less than 10 minutes. Search for your country's official free credit report service and pull all 3 bureaus. Read every single line. I hope you find nothing. I genuinely hope your report is clean and boring and exactly what you expect it to be. But if it is not, now you know what to do.